The lounge was filled with an atmosphere of silence and tension. The moderate sound of the fan and the fragrance of tea were trying to keep the environment somewhat normal. The strangers sitting on the sofa in front were talking with great confidence. From their style, it was clear they were used to getting their way. Hannah sat with her gaze slightly lowered. Her face reflected an extraordinary innocence and beauty. Mr. Adams' hand trembled slightly as he held the teacup. Meanwhile, Mrs. Adams kept smiling continuously, trying to make the environment pleasant, but the constant sweat appearing on her forehead testified that she was extremely worried. The woman sitting opposite spoke. "We really like your daughter. You should come to our house tomorrow, and then we'll take this conversation forward. My son is an engineer and works in such a big company. Your daughter will always be happy. I'm not used to beating around the bush. We don't have any greed for dowry. We will treat your daughter with the utmost respect." The words were just about to form on Mrs. Adams' lips when the lounge door burst open. Everyone's eyes turned in that direction in an instant. The man who walked in carried an aura of dominance and authority that engulfed the entire atmosphere. Tall height, stern eyes, and heavy footsteps. This was no ordinary man. This was Darren Kanyada, Hannah's husband, the son-in-law of this house. Behind him, 3 guards also entered. Mr. Adams quickly stood up in nervousness. Mrs. Adams, too, adjusted her scarf in panic, and Hannah's face turned pale. She felt like her soul was leaving her body. Before the proposal had even arrived, she had warned her parents many times, "You don't know Darren. He isn't as careless as he looks." And her prediction had come true. She felt her breath choking, her heartbeat racing so intensely it seemed like it would burst out of her chest. He slowly walked to the sofa and fixed his piercing gaze on the people sitting there. His heavy voice roared through the room. "You want to marry a married woman. And who gave you permission to enter this house?" The room was filled with silence. The woman sitting opposite panicked and stood up. Her face carried both sternness and shock. She spoke in a harsh tone. "What are you talking about? And who gave you the right to say such things? Mr. Adams, what is this nonsense? Who is this man, and how is he standing in your house like this?" Darren's eyes flamed like burning fire. He stepped forward and thundered, "Don't you understand? I'm her husband. Get out of here, or else right now, my guards will gun you all down. Don't force me to drag this matter further, because if I do, I'll take your lives right here." As these words echoed through the room, a wave of terror swept across the atmosphere. The strangers glanced nervously at one another. One of the men stood up in anger and spoke firmly. "What kind of misbehavior is this? We came here with respect," and he couldn't even finish his sentence before Darren lunged forward, grabbed his collar, shook him violently, and then pulled a pistol from his pocket, pressing it straight against the man's forehead. The air seemed to tremble with the threat of gunpowder. Hannah's heart felt like it had stopped beating. Mrs. Adams' face turned pale, and Mr. Adams stood drenched in helpless sweat. The 3 of them felt as though they were being buried alive. Darren's voice thundered again, bouncing off the walls of the room. "If you value your lives, leave here at once. Otherwise, I'll unleash such wrath that there will be no limit to it. Get out right now." His scream burst forth with such intensity that the very walls of the lounge seemed to shiver. The strange woman, with trembling hands, adjusted her scarf and signaled to the others. Without wasting even a moment, both men and both women rushed outside. Their hurried footsteps and fearful eyes were clearly visible. Darren still held the pistol in his hand. The guards stood silently but with watchful eyes, as if waiting for a signal to turn everything into dust. When Darren slammed the door shut, a heavy silence filled the room. Mrs. Adams collapsed onto the chair. Mr. Adams held his trembling hands against his forehead, and tears welled up in Hannah's eyes. Uncontrollable tears began to fall. She kept silently staring at the ground. She wished she could end her life, but she knew she no longer had control over her own existence. After they left, Darren slowly walked toward Mr. Adams. A cold smile lingered on his face, and flames burned in his eyes. Mr. Adams still sat trembling with sweat pouring down his body. His life seemed stuck in his throat. He knew very well how this man standing before him could darken his entire world. Darren bent down, placed his hand on his shoulder, and brushed off an imaginary speck of dust from his coat in a mocking gesture. Then, in a sarcastic tone, he said, "What did I warn you about? You will not do anything foolish that would irritate me. You know very well that I am a kanyata. And you also know what status women hold in our family. Then why this childish act? May I know the reason? When I've already said this girl is mine, she belongs to me. She is in my Nika, then what was the reason for this drama? His booming voice forced all three of them into fear. With a trembling voice, Mr. Adams said, "It has been 3 years since the Nika, Darren. I need to send my daughter away now. If you don't want to have a marriage in the real sense, at least let me do something for my daughter. I don't know what will become of me or my wife's life. I want to hand my daughter over to strong hands while I'm still alive. We tried many times to talk to you and your father, but you people always avoided us. How long will this continue? I also wish to see my daughter properly settled before my eyes. But your family's temperament is different." Listening to him, Darren's gaze grew harder. He tilted his head slightly and said in a heavy tone, "Then you could have discussed this with me. Why was there a need to go knocking on others' doors? You know my family is different. If you wanted to send your daughter away, you could have come directly to me. Why this circus? Did you think of my wife as a showpiece to be placed before whoever you please?" Mr. Adams sighed helplessly. Pain echoed in his voice as he looked at him and said, "I have tried many times to talk to you, Mr. Darren. But you only make time for your business. This home, these responsibilities, this wife, all of it has become a burden for you. You don't take these matters seriously at all. I regret accepting your father's proposal and giving my daughter's hand to you. I regret it deeply. I wish I had married my daughter into a poor family instead. At least then she would have been living a peaceful life today. You have completely destroyed my life and my daughter's life. And now, when we are trying to make a decision, you still have a problem. What exactly do you want? What wrong have we committed that you treat us this way?" Darren's smile now turned venomous. He stepped closer, looked straight into Mr. Adams' eyes, and said, "Very well. When my father gave you hundreds of thousands of dollars for your wife's treatment, and in return asked for your daughter's hand, you gladly placed her hand into mine. At that time, there was no regret, no shame. And now suddenly, what is this drama? I want to know. Please explain in detail." Lines of shame and humiliation deepened on Mr. Adams' face. This was the only reason he felt helpless every time. Otherwise, he would have called the police long ago to have Darren locked up, the man who had completely ruined their lives. For a moment, he turned his face away in silence. Mrs. Adams sat, struggling to hold back her tears, but they fell silently to the ground like a wordless protest. Darren turned his gaze to Hannah. She sat terrified in a corner, fear in her eyes and suffocation in her chest. In a cold tone, Darren said, "And you, go put on a burqa. Your father is so eager to marry you off, isn't he? Then listen carefully, all of you. Until I allow it, you will not step outside this threshold. You will live according to me. It's decided now. Wherever I keep you, that's where you will stay. Because your father has lost his mind." Hannah looked nervously toward her parents. Darren was about to say more when suddenly Mrs. Adams stepped forward, joining her hands in front of him. Tears streamed from her eyes, and her voice trembled as she pleaded, "Darren, my son, why are you doing this? You claim to love my daughter. That is why we gave her hand to you. But you..." Before she could finish, Darren cut her off with an angry gesture of his hand and roared, "Your daughter doesn't even want to marry me. I've been saying for so long, let's just send her off. For 3 years, I've been waiting myself. I can't lie anymore. Hannah has many objections to me. She doesn't want this marriage. I don't know what fear she feels toward me. I truly don't know. Yes, the marriage 3 years ago was at my father's insistence, but I tried hard to fulfill it with happiness and sincerity. Yet your daughter has never accepted me, and I am not a man who believes in force. But now things have gone too far. I am a kanyata. In our family, women are treated as honor. If anyone tries to snatch away our honor, we don't forgive. Instead, we bury that person alive. That is why now she will go with me. Wherever I place her, she will remain there. This decision is final." His words struck like lightning in the room. The most shocked of all was Hannah. She looked up at Darren with trembling lips, unable to speak. She stammered in fear, You are lying, Darren. I never said anything like that." She looked in shock at the man standing before her, her husband, the one who had once claimed to love her, but now was humiliating her in front of everyone, putting false accusations on her. She was just about to complete her sentence when Darren glared at her, raised his voice, and roared with great intensity. "Did you not hear me? Go and wear a burqa. Until I give permission, you will not step across this threshold. And if you dare try anything, remember I will not spare you. You all know very well what I am capable of." Hannah froze, wanting to speak, but her words were swallowed before they could leave her lips. Mr. Adams immediately looked toward his daughter and, in a trembling voice, said, "Go, my child. Do as your husband says. We trust you." Tears welled up in Hannah's eyes. She looked at her father with tearful eyes, but his gaze remained lowered. With heavy, reluctant steps, she went inside. A few moments later, Darren turned toward Mr. and Mrs. Adams and said coldly, "I'm taking her with me. I'll get her some shopping done. And by the end of this week, we will complete the rukhsati. That's final. I won't allow any more delays, because both of you are becoming out of control." He had kept his words brief. He didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. Mr. Adams raised his head. There was deep sorrow in his eyes as he said quietly, "I only wanted to see my daughter settled in her home while I'm still alive. That's why I called them today. But you came. Tell me, how did you even find out they were here?" His voice trembled with worrying, though in his heart he felt some relief that at least his daughter's rukhsati would happen this week. He knew very well that a man like Darren could never be found again for his daughter, but Darren's careless and negligent ways pierced his heart. A smile appeared on Darren's face. He stood tall and said proudly, "I am a Kanyata. I keep a hawk's eye on my honor. Do you really think I'm so careless that someone could come to see her, and I wouldn't know? And as for punishment for this act, that will be for both of you and for her as well. How dare she sit before strangers while she is in my nikah? This all happened before my eyes, and you expect me to stay silent? Impossible. The fault is entirely Hannah's, and I deeply regret that. Despite being in my nikah, she preferred to sit in front of strange men." Mrs. Adams broke into tears once again. With folded hands, she pleaded, "Son, for God's sake, show some mercy. My child is innocent. What is her fault?" Darren cast a hard, dismissive look at her, as if her words carried no weight. Then, suddenly, he turned his head toward the room and shouted, "Hannah, come out immediately. Why are you taking so long, or should I come inside myself?" His temper had reached the skies. His mind was no longer working in control. Moments later, the soft sound of a latch was heard, and Hannah emerged, trembling, draped in a burqa. Her eyes were lowered, her steps unsteady. The air in the room grew even heavier. Darren cast a piercing look at her. His eyes carried harshness, and his face bore an unbearable dominance. He stepped forward and suddenly grabbed Hannah's wrist firmly. "Come on," he said in a hard tone, and with the sound of his footsteps, he led her outside. Mr. and Mrs. Adams stood frozen in their places, eyes wet, hearts broken, lips silent. Before them, their daughter seemed to be walking into a prison of fate, and they could do nothing. The atmosphere inside the car was heavy with tension. Outside, through the windows, the car sped swiftly down the road, but inside, the silence was so thick that even the beating of hearts could be heard. Hannah sat in the front seat, head bowed, nervously twisting the corner of her scarf in her fingers. Her breaths were quick, her eyes filled with tears again and again. On the driver's seat, Darren sat, his face burning with anger, veins on his neck stiff with rage. A few moments passed under the burden of silence. Then suddenly, Darren spoke harshly. "How dare you sit before strange men? Not for even one moment did you think of me. Did you not consider what I would do if I found out? Aren't you afraid of me?" He could barely hold himself back from strangling the girl sitting beside him. But he knew if he harmed her, he wouldn't be able to take his next breath either. Hannah's body trembled. In a fearful voice, she said, "Why did you lie in front of my parents? I never refused the rukhsati. In fact, last month I myself spoke to you about it. You were the one who said you were caught up with issues, and that it wasn't the right time. Then why did you say such things? This is injustice. You put a false accusation on me and made me look dishonorable in my parents' eyes." Darren slammed his hand on the steering wheel in fury, glared at her, and growled, "Because it's my will. Whatever I want to say, I will say. You can't stop me. And as for today's stunt, you will pay for it. I will give you such a punishment that you will beg for refuge. But you will not find it." He was barely holding himself back. For Dram Kanyada, it was nearly impossible to digest this matter. Hannah's tears now spilled uncontrollably down her cheeks. In a broken, trembling voice, she said, "You are cruel, Dram. First, you forced this Nika on me, snatched away my life. And now, when the time has come to fulfill it, you only talk of punishments. I will never forgive you. You have been unjust to me and to my family." She didn't even know what more to say. Though it was true her father himself had accepted the proposal, and though they had asked for it, the final decision had been his. But now, he regretted his choice deeply. A faint, sarcastic smile appeared on Darren's face. He cast a cold glance at her and said harshly, "Shut up. I don't even need your apology. Do you think your few tears and a few words will change my will? No, Hannah. You don't know me yet, but very soon you will." Then Dram paused for a moment. A strange gleam appeared in his eyes. With meaningful weight in his voice, he said, "I will forgive you properly on our wedding night." These words struck Hannah's heart like lightning. Her cheeks flushed completely red, as if blood rushed to her face. She panicked and immediately lowered her head, wiping her eyes with the edge of her scarf. Though her tears still flowed, the atmosphere inside the car grew even heavier. Outside, the road buzzed with noise, horns blaring. But inside, only silence and the sound of heartbeats echoed. Darren's face remained stern, as though he was enjoying Hannah's vulnerabilities, while Hannah, trapped in her own world, kept silently praying to God for relief from her pain. A prayer that seemed impossible to be answered. After some time, beneath the glittering, dazzling lights of the mall, people bustled about. But Hannah's heart was covered in deep darkness. Step by step, she walked with Dram until they finally entered a large bridal dress shop. Her heartbeat raced. She didn't want to be there, but Darren's order and his force had left her no choice. This sudden turn of events shocked her. Dram sat comfortably outside on the couch, phone in hand, but his eyes lifted repeatedly toward the glass to glance inside. Inside, Hannah entered the dressing room. Before her hung a heavy red dress. When she touched the fabric, her heart trembled. The dress was beautiful, but the neckline was so deep, and the sleeves so revealing, that her body shivered with shame. She placed the dress against her body, glanced in the mirror, and instantly lowered her gaze. Her cheeks blazed, and her eyes filled with embarrassment. Behind her, the salesgirl smiled and said, "Ma'am, this dress is very much in demand. It will look perfect on you." Before Hannah even reached here, Dram had already ordered the dress to be taken out. Hannah stammered nervously, I can't wear such a deep neckline. Show me another dress. There must be plenty here. Show me something more modest." The salesgirl paused, then quietly went to fetch others. Hannah tried to cover her delicacy with her hands and prayed silently for another option. The moments stretched like centuries. Finally, the salesgirl returned, but her words snatched the ground from under Hannah's feet. She hesitated and said softly, "Ma'am, Sir has said you must wear this dress and come out." Hannah's lips trembled. She muttered under her breath, "What do they think? That I will wear this shameless outfit just to satisfy him?" As a last attempt, she pleaded to the salesgirl, "Bring me my abaya. I'll wear that instead. I cannot wear this dress. If you won't show me something else." The salesgirl was about to respond when suddenly, Dram pushed the door open and entered. Hannah's heart nearly stopped. She wasn't ready for anyone to see her in this dress, but his sudden arrival made her turn away in shame. Her heartbeat thundered, as though it would burst out of her chest. Dram stepped forward, gripping her arm firmly. A cold smile played on his lips, his eyes burning with unbearable dominance. In a low yet harsh tone, he said, "You're in my Nika and still keeping this much distance from me. How long will you keep up this drama?" "Hannah," in a trembling voice, she whispered, Why are you tormenting me? First, you didn't want Ruksati, and now suddenly all this. I suspect you're planning something. You're going to do something terrible, aren't you?" Her fear consumed her because the man standing before her was capable of anything. Dram stared at her seriously and said, "We're not going to your house today. We're going straight to my apartment. So this unnecessary shyness ends once and for all. I cannot live like this with you. From now on, we'll discuss everything there." Hannah's breath caught in her throat. She felt like her soul was leaving her body. Summoning courage, with tears brimming, she said, But you yourself said there were issues. You said it wasn't time yet. Why have you changed now? I'm scared. I don't see any good ahead. Darren, what are you planning? Darren pressed his lips for a moment, then leaned closer. His tone cold and firm. If you don't want me to lose control here and commit something indecent, then it's better you quietly put on your abaya and come out. I'm taking you straight to my apartment. The decision is final. With that, he squeezed her wrist slightly before releasing it and turned toward the door. Hannah's world froze. She stood trembling, tears falling onto the ground. Her soul screamed, but her lips remained sealed. Outside, Darren calmly sat back on the couch as though nothing had happened. The salesgirl stood silently, head lowered. Even in the mall's noisy atmosphere, Hannah's pounding heart seemed audible. After a while, the mall lights sparkled as always. Children's laughter echoed on the stairs, and people carried their shopping bags. But amid all this, Hannah stood trembling in her burqa, eyes clouded with fear, heart racing uncontrollably. Darren stood in the corner, speaking on the phone, his back turned. She was about to call out to him, but froze when she heard his words. His tone was sharp and commanding. No, stop all the work for now. I need time with my wife. Not a single soul should know what I'm doing. If anyone gets caught, I'll kill you all. The shipment must leave by tomorrow night. And yes, make sure the check reaches Baba. He will collect the payment. I want no mistakes. Everything must go according to plan so that in the end, we don't suffer any loss. Hannah stood frozen, feet glued to the ground, heartbeat stuck in her throat. As soon as Darren finished speaking, he sensed someone behind him. He turned suddenly and his eyes locked on hers. For a few seconds, silence gripped the air. Hannah rushed forward, tears flooding her eyes, and cried, "What is this? Who are you really? Is this why you've been delaying for 3 years? Do you smuggle illegal weapons to other countries?" Darren's expression shifted instantly. He stepped forward, seizing her wrist in his iron grip. "Quiet. This is a public place. Don't make noise. We'll sit and talk. If you keep saying nonsense, I'll become suspicious." Hannah struggled desperately to free her hand. "No, there's nothing left to talk about. I heard everything. Now the decision will be made. I cannot live with a criminal like you." Her words weren't even finished when Darren suddenly pulled her violently and began dragging her toward the exit of the mall. His pace was fast, his grip harsh. She kept struggling, crying out, "Let me go. Don't you feel any shame dragging me like this in front of everyone?" Her voice trembled, but those around them assumed it was a trivial quarrel between a husband and wife. No one dared interfere. Darren leaned close and whispered angrily, "Say another word, and you'll make a scene right here. And remember, the crowd always mocks the woman, not the man. The choice is yours. What do you want?" Through tears, she cried, "You are cruel. I thought after marriage you might change. But instead you turned out to be a criminal." Darren let out a cold laugh and said in a harsh tone, "Criminal or whatever else, you are my wife. Your tongue and your decisions hold no value in front of me. That's something you must understand." Step by step, he dragged her toward the mall's exit. With every passing moment, her heart trembled more. As soon as they stepped outside, the evening breeze brushed her face. But instead of freedom, she felt imprisonment. Heading toward the car, she cried, "One day, I will expose you in front of everyone. I will reveal the truth. Tell me who you really are." Darren stopped for a moment, leaned down toward her, and said in a cold tone, "Do whatever you want. But remember, you didn't choose this marriage. Your family did. And now that you are with me, there is no way out." Her eyes welled with tears, her heart crushed with helplessness. She wanted to scream for help, but her lips stayed sealed. Silently, she walked behind him toward the car, fear gripping her heart, and only one question echoing in her mind: who is this man I call my husband? Inside the car, suffocation spread. The road outside was noisy with honking cars and flashing lights. But inside, a storm brewed between the two. Darren's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, while with the other he clutched Hannah's wrist. She kept struggling to free herself, but his grip was unbreakable. Tears streamed down her face, her heartbeat so wild she could barely breathe. When the pain became unbearable, she cried out, "Let go of my hand, Darren. Where are you taking me? I don't want to go with you. I want to go to my mother's house." I don't even know who you are. Why are you ruining my life? Let me go. Why can't you understand me? Why are you so stubborn? My father only married me to you because we were in debt. But we were not forced. We'll repay your money. Let me go. I cannot live my life with a criminal. Why can't you understand that? Darren cast a furious look at her and snapped, "Shut up. Stop repeating the same thing again and again, or I'll break your mouth. Don't drive me insane." She cried out in anguish, "How can I stay silent? Now I understand everything. You are not the man you appear to be. You are involved in illegal business. That is why you didn't want the wedding consummation for 3 years. Now I know why you are always busy, why you run away from me. Your reality has been revealed to me. You are a criminal, and I cannot spend my life with a criminal. My father and I have always lived a respectable life. I will not destroy my life by living with you." Her voice was drowned in sobs. She was exhausted from crying, but the pain in her heart kept spilling out through her words. "Take me back to my father's house. I will not stay with you anymore. I will divorce you. Living with a man like you is an insult to me. God was trying to save me from you, but I couldn't understand his wisdom. Now everything is clear why our relationship has been stuck for the last 3 years." Tiny drops of sweat appeared on Darren's forehead. His face turned red with rage. He slammed his hand on the steering wheel and suddenly pulled the car to the side of the road. The screeching of the tires made 2 or 3 people nearby turn to look, but Darren didn't care. The next moment, the sound of a harsh slap echoed inside the car. She staggered, hitting her head against the corner of the seat. Darkness clouded her eyes. The slap was intense. In her ears, only Darren's furious voice rang out. "Stay in your place. Don't even think about divorce. If those words leave your mouth again, I will rip your tongue out and strangle you with it." Silence. Not another word. "If you don't know the truth, then it is better to remain quiet. Don't provoke my anger with baseless accusations or I will treat you very badly. Until today, you have only seen my love, not my wrath. Don't force me to show you my rage." Her face burned. Her eyes flooded again. She cried silently, suffocating under fear. No effort could stop her sobs. But deep inside her heart, a strange decision was being born. She would have to find a way out of this suffocating life. She wanted to fight him, to speak up again, but after that slap, she couldn't even lift her head from the corner of the seat. Fear froze her completely. Darren cast a sharp glance at her, then restarted the car. His eyes were fixed on the road, but a storm raged inside them. The car sped through flyovers, signals, and streets. She remained lost in her terrors, staring out the window. Amid the city lights, everything appeared blurred. Fear and hatred fought within her heart. One question echoed in her mind again and again. Is this the man I trusted with my entire life? After a while of silence, she whispered, "You have destroyed my life, Darren. I will never forgive you. You are a terrible man. You appear one way, but inside, you are someone else." Darren let out a sarcastic laugh and replied coldly, "Think whatever you want. You have no choice. You are my wife now, and you will always live according to my will." "Enough, no more words. I don't want to hear a single thing from you." She shrank into her seat, closed her eyes, and prayed silently to God for help. The car sped up even more. Soon, it stopped in front of a large apartment building. Her breath caught in her throat. Her heartbeat became frantic. She didn't want to go inside, but he dragged her forcefully toward the apartment. She tried every possible way to escape, but it was useless. As soon as they entered the room, Darren slammed the door shut with a loud thud, as if cutting off every possible escape from the world. She staggered back against the wall. Tears filled her eyes, and deep fear etched across her face. In a trembling voice, she pleaded, "Why have you brought me here? For God's sake, don't do anything wrong with me. I am your wife, but even as your wife, today I fear losing my honor. Please let me go." Darren's eyes locked on her with a piercing, harsh gaze that could shake even the strongest soul. "The only reason I am tolerating this from you is because you are my wife. If it were anyone else, they would already be buried underground. Sit down on the sofa. Otherwise, your cries will shake the whole flat. And remember, I didn't bring you here to hurt you. I brought you to reveal the truth. I'm not here to harm you." He didn't want to hurt her further. Each of her tears felt like it was falling on his own heart. With a trembling voice, she said, "Say whatever you have to say from there. Don't come near me. I'm terrified of you." Darren paused for a moment, studying her face intently, then said in a low but firm voice, "What are you afraid of? Have I strangled you? Have I beaten you? For 3 years, instead of understanding me, you've been running from me. I kept giving you time, hoping you would realize what path we were on. But even now, you look at me with suspicion." She lowered her head and wept. Her trembling lips barely managed to whisper, "But I heard you. You said the shipment must leave by tomorrow night. The payment must reach Baba. How can that be a lie? Did I dream it?" For a brief moment, deep seriousness fell on Darren's face. He took a step closer and said, "Those are the words a police officer has to say when he infiltrates the criminal world, pretending to be one of them. I am neither a don nor a smuggler. I am an undercover agent who risks his life to expose such filthy businesses. Do you even know the fire I've been burning in for the last 3 years?" She stared at him in shock. You're a police officer. How is this possible? You're supposed to be a businessman." Shaken, she almost collapsed. Darren took a deep breath, pulled out a card from his pocket, and handed it to her trembling hands. "Here, this is my real identity. It needs no further proof." Her hands shook as she held the card close to her tearful eyes. Though blurred by tears, the words and seals were clear. He truly was an undercover agent. Her world shook as if the ground had fallen beneath her. She cried out, "If this is true, then why didn't you tell me before? Why did you keep me in the dark? Why did you let me burn in fear every single day?" Darren looked straight into her eyes and replied with a heavy tone, "Because this is my duty. If even a hint of this secret slipped, not only would I die, but you would too. The enemies have long ears. One mistake could end the entire mission. And I couldn't risk losing you. I've solved many cases over the last 3 years, but I feared that bringing you into my life would put you in danger. Believe me, I'd rather die than let any harm come to your honor or your life." He paused, then continued, "Do you know why my father asked Mr. Adams for your hand in marriage? Because I loved you. Your father may have been our driver, but we always treated him like family. When your mother passed away and your family was desperate for help, that was the moment I could have you in my life. That is why I asked my father to propose in exchange for financial help. Your father was helpless at that time and also trusted me, so he agreed. But Hannah, it was always me who wanted you. I've always loved you." As he spoke, Darren came closer and looked into her eyes. "I love you deeply. My love has no equal. Always trust me." The silence of the night surrounded them, soft light filling the room. Step by step, he moved closer, his breath audible in the stillness. Hannah's heart raced, her lips trembled, but her eyes revealed helplessness mixed with trust. Suddenly, he cupped her face in his hands. His eyes asked if she was ready, and her quiet smile was the answer. She closed her eyes, then willingly leaned into him. He was her husband, the man who claimed her love. How could she refuse? He lifted her in his arms and gently laid her on the bed. His lips caressed her forehead and neck with tenderness. She trembled, but his loving touch soothed her fears. For a moment, she thought of pulling away, but her heart whispered, "This is my own." Moment by moment, the distance vanished. His touch assured her this was not just the union of bodies, but of souls. Hannah gave herself completely to him. He stayed with her until dawn, holding her, cherishing her, fulfilling his love. In the morning, he dropped her home and left for his work. The gentle rays of the sun streamed through the curtains. Hannah sat on the sofa, her face glowing with a rare smile. The memories of the night replayed in her mind the way he held her, loved her, and proved his devotion. Those memories breathed new life into her. At that moment, Mrs. Adams entered the lounge with a glass of water. She noticed the glow on her daughter's face. Handing her the glass, she asked softly, "Hannah, what is it? Your face is blooming today, as if you are truly happy. Is everything all right?" Hannah smiled, took the glass, and replied, "Yes, Mama. Everything is perfectly fine. It's just, I've finally understood life. A husband means everything. Now that he accepts me with all his heart and is ready for the wedding's next step, what more could I want?" Mrs. Adams kissed her daughter's forehead but felt a slight unease. She said gently, "Still, something feels different. Such a sudden change in you, such brightness in your face, such sparkle in your eyes, it means something special happened." Hannah lowered her gaze, a soft smile playing on her lips. She couldn't hide it from her mother. Her lips quivered, then she whispered, "Mama, you're right. We came closer last night." Mrs. Adams's heart skipped a beat. As a married woman, she knew the truth behind her daughter's words. She placed her hand on Hannah's and said seriously, "I'm glad you've accepted your husband. But, my daughter, as your mother I must tell you before the formal wedding send-off, these things should not happen." Hannah lifted her head and replied with conviction, "Mama, the wedding send-off is this week, and when it was my husband's wish, wasn't it my duty to respect that wish?" Mrs. Adams sighed deeply. She saw peace on her daughter's face, but unease still gnawed at her heart. "I pray, my child, that your happiness remains forever. But I still do not fully trust your husband." His sweet words hide a harshness that sometimes reveals the truth inside. Hannah held her mother's hand and said with a smile, "Mama, I finally found happiness. Please just pray for me. This week is my send-off. I want it to be filled with joy. I believe everything will be good." Mrs. Adams hugged her daughter, but her eyes still carried worrying. In her heart lingered an unknown fear, as if a hidden darkness loomed near her daughter's life. While Hannah drowned in happiness, her mother's heart sank in unease. Time passed slowly. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. A month and a half went by. Curtains swayed gently in the breeze. Faint light spread across the room. Hannah sat on the bed, dark circles under her eyes. Her face heavy with sadness, her heart burdened. She twisted her fingers, rested her head on her knees, and sighed. She had been feeling strange all morning, and the doctor's words, a little while ago, struck her like poison. "Congratulations. You are pregnant." Her body froze. For others, this might be joyful news, but for Hannah, it was a storm. Tears poured from her eyes. Her heart kept repeating, "The wedding send-off hasn't even happened yet. How is this possible? Darren left me. Where is he? Why hasn't he contacted me?" Since that day, he has disappeared. A month and a half has passed, and nothing. In this turmoil, the door opened and Mrs. Adams entered. Worrying was etched on her tired face. "Hannah, what's wrong, my child? Why do you look so broken?" She already knew, but seeing her daughter's condition was unbearable. Hannah lifted her head, tried wiping her tears, but words failed her. In a trembling voice, she said, "Mama, please don't scold me. I'm already shattered. I never thought his words of love would trap me like this. This child is mine. But he abandoned me. He didn't stay with me. She didn't come to say anything. I had explained that day too, that this man is not what he seems. But you accepted it because of your stubbornness. Anyway, what had to happen has happened, but something strange occurred. Your father also went to his bungalow, tried to meet Darren, but the guards didn't even let him inside. They said right at the gate that there was no connection. What has really happened?" A wave of sadness ran over Hannah's face. Crying, she said, "Mother, I don't know anything myself. He hasn't spoken to me. It's been 1.5 months. Neither did he answer my calls, nor did he try to contact me in any other way. I waited, I was patient, but now enough is enough. I will never speak to him again. He hasn't treated me well. I am very angry with him." Saying this, she broke down into tears. Her voice was shattered, as though someone had broken all her inner strength. Mrs. Adams moved forward and held her in her arms. Her tears also began to flow, but she was still trying to give her daughter courage. A week later, silence spread throughout the lounge. Outside, the sun had already risen with its blazing light, but Hannah's heart was drowned in darkness. She was sitting in the kitchen with her mother, holding a piece of apple in her hand. But a strange restlessness filled her heart. Suddenly, the mobile phone began to ring. She reached out and picked it up. A strange name was flashing on the screen. For a moment, her heartbeat quickened as if some unseen shadow had gripped her. She placed it to her ear, and from the other side came a heavy voice. "Madam, I regret to inform you that your husband, Mr. Darren, is no longer in this world. If you wish to see his face one last time, come to the bungalow immediately." Hearing this, it was as if the ground slipped away from beneath her feet. The phone nearly fell from her hand. Her breath stopped, her heart trembled, and tears streamed uncontrollably from her eyes. She stood up in shock. "No, this is a lie. This cannot be true." Mrs. Adams rushed close to her. "Hannah, what happened? Is everything okay? Why are you so disturbed?" Hannah replied in a trembling voice, "Mother, everything is ruined. There was a phone call. Darren has passed away. Maybe it was an encounter or perhaps some other accident. Mother, didn't I tell you he was an undercover agent? In such missions, he left me behind. Saying this, she cried uncontrollably and ran frantically out of the kitchen. Mrs. Adams hurried after her, but her speed was as if she were running to save her life. Mrs. Adams quickly picked up the phone to inform her husband, but by then Hannah had already reached the street corner and stopped a rickshaw. With trembling hands, she fixed the fare and sat down. The passengers of the rickshaw seemed like strangers, as if everything had ended. A heavy weight pressed on her heart. Again and again, she wiped her eyes. Amid the rickshaw's noise, Darren's laughter, his words, his gaze haunted her. The man she considered her own was dead. The thought itself was enough to make life unbearable. After a short yet seemingly endless journey, the rickshaw stopped at the bungalow gate. The gate was open, as if someone had been waiting. Without thinking, she ran inside. A strange silence lay over the bungalow corridors. Even the clocks hanging on the walls seemed to have stopped. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. She was a little surprised. At that moment, a servant rushed to her. "Madam, please, come inside." "To Sir's room." Hannah didn't answer. Tears streamed down her face, her feet barely touching the ground. She ran straight inside, passing through the corridors until she finally reached Darren's room. As she entered, what her eyes saw nearly made her forget to breathe. There, near the window, Darren stood alive. For a moment, it felt as if the earth had stopped. Her heartbeat raced wildly, and without thinking, she rushed to him. Throwing herself into his arms, she broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Her tears soaked his shirt. Feeling her touch, a smile spread across Darren's face. His love was not in vain. He had won. She cried in pain at the news of his death. Darren turned and, smiling, wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close to his chest. For a while, she just melted into his existence, as though years of separation had ended today. But after a few moments, regaining her senses, she suddenly pulled back, anger and tears still in her eyes. "What a liar you are. You almost killed me. Who made that call saying you were dead? Do you even realize? If something really happened to you, what would have become of me?" Darren took a deep breath, moved closer, and gently placed his hand on her stomach. His voice softened. "Not just you. What about our child? And listen, I'm not the kind of man to die so easily. I have to take you along with me." Her trembling lips and eyes still carried anger. "I don't want to talk to you. You promised my departure would happen by the end of this week, and now, a month and a half has passed. Where were you? Didn't you claim to love me?" Darren bent slightly, looking into her eyes. "I know how hard this time was for you, but the last case I was trapped in disappearing was a necessity. My life was in danger. Orders came from above to leave the country immediately. I went to London. If I had contacted anyone from there, it would have harmed not only me but you as well." She cried out, "But you couldn't even say a single word to me. I cried so much, I broke apart, and you left me alone." Darren gently held her hands. "I remembered you every moment. I knew everything about you. I even knew you were going to be a mother. Just forgive me. I was helpless, not cruel." She remained silent. The tears didn't stop. Darren wiped the drops from her eyes with his hands and said softly, "Now I'm back. I've spoken to your mother and father about everything. Now you'll stay with me. Consider your departure done. I'm arranging the wedding feast tomorrow. Please, forgive me." She quietly lowered her head. The hardness of her heart slowly began to melt. Darren pulled her into his arms again, as though all the pain in the world had ended. And despite her anger, she sought peace in his heartbeat. Truth sometimes hurts, but when love is sincere, it heals all wounds.